Welcome to Reddit Revenge Stories. Did you know over 90% of people watch these videos but don't subscribe? If you enjoy stories of justice and payback, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to like the video if you're ready for today's story. Let's get to the story. I always believed that love, once nurtured with care and loyalty, would stand strong against any storm life threw at it. For 15 years, I lived by that belief. My name is Daniel, and I'm here to tell my story, not because I'm proud of it, but because it needs to be heard. Sometimes the ones we trust the most are the ones who break us the hardest. I met Emily when I was 26. She had this energy, bright, effortless, and full of life. I was working as a junior architect, buried in deadlines, and she walked into a firm presentation as part of the event management team. She wasn't even the focus of the event, but somehow she stole everyone's attention, especially mine. Fast forward 2 years, and we were married. Our wedding was modest but meaningful. I remember standing under that old oak tree in her parents' backyard, holding her hands and making promises I meant with every fiber of my being. I said I would protect her, love her, and be faithful. She said the same. At least that's what I believed. Our early years were filled with warmth. We built our home from scratch. Every tile, every wall color, every small decision was ours. She used to leave me handwritten notes in my lunchbox, and I'd surprise her with coffee on tough days. When our daughter Sophie was born, I thought we had reached the peak of our happiness. But happiness, I've learned, can be deceiving. Sometimes, the more perfect it appears, the more fragile it truly is. It started small, things most people wouldn't even notice. Emily began spending more time on her phone. At first, I thought she was just keeping up with friends, or maybe reading those parenting blogs she loved. Then there were the late-night work events that she never mentioned before. When I'd ask how they went, she'd smile a little too much or change the topic quickly. I didn't want to be the paranoid husband, so I ignored the signs. I made excuses for her. She's tired. She's stressed. Maybe I'm just imagining things. But doubt has a way of sinking into the soul, even when you try to push it out. One night, around midnight, I woke up and found Emily wasn't beside me. I walked into the hallway and heard faint whispers from the living room. She was on a video call. When I stepped closer, her voice dropped. She noticed me, startled. I remember her expression clearly. It wasn't guilt, not immediately. It was fear. Then it quickly morphed into irritation. "Couldn't sleep," she said, brushing past me. "Just needed a minute to myself." I nodded, pretending to believe her. But something inside me shifted that night. It was the first time I realized I didn't truly know what she was hiding. I tried to regain normalcy. I became more attentive, helped more around the house, even planned a weekend getaway for just the two of us. She said she couldn't go, work stuff, but I saw her suitcase packed in the closet later that week. And it wasn't packed for a business trip. It was packed with summer dresses and sandals, not a single document or laptop in sight. So I did something I never imagined I would. I installed a small GPS tracker on her car. It felt wrong, like I was betraying her trust. But deep down, I knew the trust was already gone. I just needed confirmation. That Friday, she told me she had a conference 3 towns over. I smiled and wished her luck. Then I followed her after she left. She didn't go to any conference. She went to a small beachside cottage. When I saw her car parked outside, I stayed in my car, heart pounding. Hours passed. I didn't see her come out. Then, just as the sun began to set, another car pulled up. A man stepped out, tall, maybe in his 30s, wearing a blue shirt I remembered seeing in one of her old Facebook photos. They embraced at the door. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, numb. 15 years. 15 years of love, of shared memories, of promises, broken in a moment. I drove back home, trying to keep the steering wheel steady while my world was falling apart. For 2 days, I said nothing. She returned home and acted like everything was normal. I watched her laugh with our daughter, kiss me goodnight, make breakfast. How could she do it? How could she pretend like nothing was happening? I started digging. I hacked into her email, something I never thought I was capable of. What I found wasn't just one affair. It was a full-blown second life. Photos, hotel bookings, late-night messages. She had even bought him a birthday gift, a watch more expensive than anything she'd ever bought me. Still, I said nothing. I wanted to understand. Why him? What was I missing? What had I done wrong? But it wasn't about me. It was about her choices. I began planning, not for a confrontation, not for closure, but for something far colder. Revenge, not violent, not loud, but the kind that would cut deeper. I started documenting everything: messages, receipts, travel records. I hired a private investigator. Every move she made with him, I knew about it. I recorded every piece of evidence carefully, waiting for the perfect moment. Then I started separating my finances quietly. I opened a separate bank account, transferred ownership of my car, moved some savings under my brother's name. I consulted a lawyer under the guise of estate planning. One evening, she asked me why I'd been working late so often. I looked at her and smiled. "Just planning our future," I said. She nodded, not realizing I was doing exactly that, just not the future she expected. And then came the last straw. I discovered she had taken money from our joint account to pay for a vacation with him. She called it a business expense. I checked the details. It was a spa retreat for couples. That night, I knew. It was time to begin the end. But I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. I wanted her to feel what I felt. I wanted her to watch everything she built fall apart piece by piece and not even realize who was behind it. This was no longer about pain. It was about control. I started with small things. I told her my company was laying people off, so I might lose my job. She offered to help out by tapping into our emergency fund, which I had already emptied. Then I suggested we take a break from each other. Maybe she could visit her parents for a few weeks with Sophie. Clear her mind, reconnect. She hesitated, but eventually agreed. That night, after they left, I stood in our empty house and looked around. The home we built, the memories we shared. It all felt like a stage set for a performance that had already ended. But Act 2 was just beginning. Because while she was gone, I was about to make my next move. One that would change everything. And she would never see it coming. With Emily and Sophie staying at her parents' house, I finally had the space to act. No more pretending. No more fake smiles over breakfast. No more holding in the storm I had carried for months. I wasn't interested in a dramatic confrontation. I wanted a calculated, silent unraveling. If she could lie with such ease, I could expose the truth with precision. The first thing I did was change the passwords to all our shared accounts. Bank accounts, streaming services, utilities, everything. It was easy. I had always been the one managing the household finances. She didn't even notice the locks were shifting behind the scenes. Next, I moved forward with my lawyer. The evidence I had gathered, photographs, travel records, screenshots of texts, email correspondence, all of it was compiled into a detailed dossier. It was irrefutable. I wasn't preparing for a messy divorce. I was preparing for a clean one. One where she wouldn't walk away with half of what I'd built. You see, I'd always trusted her enough to put everything in both our names. Our house, our savings, even some business investments I'd made when things were good. That was my mistake. But I was correcting it now. My lawyer helped me draft a post-nuptial agreement, the type that looks harmless on the surface, just a mutual agreement to clarify asset ownership for the sake of transparency. I told Emily we needed to protect ourselves in case things got financially tough. I played the role of the stressed husband trying to be responsible. She signed it without reading it too closely. She had no idea she had just signed away her claim to nearly everything. And that wasn't all. The man she was seeing, I learned his name was Lucas. He wasn't just some fling. They had been involved for over a year. He worked in sales for a small firm 2 towns over. Not married, but definitely not single either. A co-worker of his, someone who owed me a favor from years back, slipped me some valuable information. Lucas had been involved in a harassment complaint 2 years ago, quietly settled by his employer. He had a reputation, one Emily clearly didn't know. I didn't confront Lucas. Instead, I sent an anonymous tip to his employer. Included were carefully redacted images of him and Emily together during work hours, a summary of his previous HR complaint, and a line: "You may want to look into his current conduct before another complaint lands on your desk." Within a week, he was suspended pending investigation. Emily noticed, of course. I watched her get more withdrawn, more anxious. She stopped talking about her colleagues at dinner. She even cried once in the bathroom when she thought I wasn't home. I didn't comfort her, I just listened. I wasn't finished yet. I reached out to a realtor I trusted and quietly listed our home. Not publicly, just private showings for select buyers. I knew we'd get offers quickly. The market was strong and our home was in a desirable neighborhood. My plan wasn't to move suddenly, it was to make her believe that our foundation was slipping out from under her feet. Then I made a new will. I named my sister as Sophie's guardian if anything were to happen to me. Not Emily. It hurt writing that, but I had to. Think about my daughter's future, not my wife's feelings. I started therapy. Real therapy. Not just for show. I needed to process what I was becoming. I told the therapist everything, not Emily's name, but the betrayal, the pain, the plan. He didn't judge. He just asked me one question I still think about. Is this revenge or is this recovery? Maybe it was both. 2 weeks later, Emily returned from her parents' house. She looked tired. She hugged me tightly, said she missed me. I hugged her back. She tried to be intimate. I pulled away, telling her I wasn't ready yet. That gave me time. Time to keep working quietly in the background while she tried to salvage the lie she was living. I began having conversations with our mutual friends, subtle ones. When they asked how we were doing, I'd sigh and say something like, "We're trying." It's hard, though. I've discovered some things I can't unsee. I never elaborated, but I knew those words would spread like wildfire. Friends talk, and gossip has a way of circling back. Within days, Emily's demeanor changed. She asked if anyone had said anything strange to me. She even asked if I was seeing someone else. I just smiled and said, "Would that bother you?" That night, she didn't sleep. I did. I made one last move. I scheduled a couples counseling session. I told her I wanted to work things out, that I believed in our marriage. She cried, said she was willing to do whatever it took. She didn't know the counselor was one I had chosen for a reason, a retired family therapist who now worked mainly in mediation for high-conflict divorces. During the session, the therapist asked what brought us in. I looked Emily straight in the eyes and said, "I think she's been lying to me." She froze. She didn't deny it. Just sat there, eyes wide, lips trembling. The counselor was calm. "Do you feel safe in this relationship?" she asked me. "I do now," I replied. After the session, Emily was quiet. She didn't ask what I meant. She knew. The house no longer felt like home to her. That was part of the plan. That weekend, I told her I needed some time alone and booked a cabin out of town. I left her with Sophie. While I was gone, my lawyer delivered the divorce papers to our doorstep, with all the attached documentation, agreements, and financial separation outlined. She called me that night, sobbing. I let the call go to voicemail. Then, I sent her a message. We both made our choices. Now we live with them. I stayed in that cabin for 4 days. No calls, no texts, just the quiet crackle of the fireplace and the sound of rain on the roof. I had never felt so hollow, or so free. When I returned, the house was quiet. Emily had taken Sophie to her sister's. I didn't stop her. The realtor called. There was a solid offer on the house. I accepted. I moved into a small apartment closer to my office. Simple, clean, mine. People often ask if I regret it, destroying the life we had together. I don't, because she destroyed it first. I just handed her the pieces. The night the divorce papers were delivered, I expected rage, accusations, maybe a flurry of texts demanding answers. But what I got instead was silence. A silence that stretched for 2 days. No calls, no messages, no confrontations. Emily finally showed up at my apartment on the third day. She looked small. Not in a physical way, but in the way someone carries themselves when their world is folding in on itself. I opened the door and stepped aside without a word. She walked in and stood by the window, arms crossed, trying to hold herself together. "I didn't think you'd actually do it," she said. I shrugged. "You didn't think I'd find out either." She turned to me then, eyes filled with tears that I didn't trust. "I made a mistake." I almost laughed. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is leaving the stove on. What she did wasn't a mistake. It was a series of calculated decisions to lie, to cheat, to betray. "I didn't come here to fight," she said quickly. "I just wanted to understand, when did you stop loving me?" I looked her straight in the eyes. "The night I watched you walk into that cottage with him." Her lip trembled, but I didn't move toward her. She wasn't mine anymore. She had made sure of that. "You planned all of this," she whispered. "The papers, the house, even Lucas losing his job." I didn't deny it. "You planned your betrayal, I just matched your commitment." There was a long pause between us, the kind of silence that feels heavy, like the air between two people who once shared everything and now stand on opposite ends of a war neither of them expected to lose. She left that evening, taking nothing with her. After that, things moved fast. The house sold. The accounts were split according to the postnup she had signed without reading. She got the car and some savings. I got everything else. Fair? Maybe not. But it was just. The custody battle didn't happen. I didn't want to fight her over Sophie. I only asked for shared custody. She agreed. I think part of her expected me to try and take everything. When I didn't, it confused her. But I didn't want revenge at the cost of my daughter. She was innocent in all this. She didn't deserve to be a weapon. The first night Sophie stayed with me in the new apartment, she asked where Mommy was. I told her, "She's at her home, and this is our home now." Kids are resilient, much more than adults give them credit for. She didn't cry. She just hugged me and asked if we could make pancakes in the morning. We did. Life after betrayal is strange. At first it feels like freedom, then it feels like a void. You don't realize how much of your identity was wrapped in the person you loved, until they're no longer there. I had to rebuild, not just my life, but myself. I picked up old hobbies. I started painting again, something I hadn't done in over a decade. I went for runs in the early morning, let the cold air bite into my skin like it was waking something dormant inside me. I found a rhythm. Emily called sometimes, not to rekindle anything, but to update me about Sophie. The calls were brief, emotionless. Once she asked if I hated her. "I don't hate you," I said. "I pity you." I meant it. Word spread about our divorce. Friends started taking sides. Some believed me, some didn't. That was fine. I wasn't looking to win a popularity contest. I just wanted peace. Lucas disappeared from her life not long after. I heard he moved out of town. His career was damaged. My anonymous report had done its job. Emily tried to reach out to him, but he ghosted her. Fitting, I suppose. Betrayal often ends in abandonment. Months passed. One night, I got a message from Emily. "I saw a photo of you and Sophie at the park. You looked happy. I'm glad she still has you." I didn't reply. Happiness wasn't something I chased anymore. It wasn't a goal. It was a result of truth, of healing, of surviving. And I was doing all three. Then came the day Emily showed up at my door again. This time, not to beg, not to argue, just to talk. "I wanted to say sorry," she said. I nodded. "Okay." She hesitated. "Not just for what I did, but for not being strong enough to admit it sooner. For not leaving before I broke us." That one stung. Because it was true. She had every opportunity to be honest, to say something before it turned into years of lies. But she didn't, and that cowardice was worse than the cheating itself. "I forgive you," I said. She looked at me, surprised. "You do?" "I have to," I said. "Not for you. For me. I can't carry it anymore." She cried, quietly. Then she left. And that was the last time I saw her in person. A year later, I met someone else. Her name was Elise. She was quiet, kind, and carried her own set of scars. We didn't rush anything, just two people broken in different places, finding ways to fit the pieces together again. She met Sophie slowly, carefully. And when Sophie called her Miss Elise, I saw something in her eyes I hadn't seen in years. Hope. I don't know what the future holds. I'm not naive anymore. I know that love isn't just about promises. It's about consistency. It's about truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Emily and I still share custody. We are polite, civil, but the closeness we once had is gone. Forever. Sometimes she looks at me during pickups with a sadness that says she still wonders what could have been. But I don't, because I know what was. I know how it ended. And more importantly, I know who I became through it. Not a victim, not a villain, just a man who was betrayed and chose not to break.